This is For Clients Only, a podcast by Harvest Advisors. I'm David Rookie.
And I'm Sean Cook.
Welcome to the podcast. We did it. We put out a podcast in 2025. The big question for you, Sean.
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because we want another channel to be able to communicate with everybody in a more timely manner and let people know what we see that's important or what's on our minds or just, whatever's going on that they might want to know about from our perspective.
I think it's interesting because we live in a society where we want information in a timely manner almost instantly. I think having a podcast probably is as close as we'll get to being able to get the information to you as quickly as we can.
Yeah. And it's a nice middle ground also. I mean, you can find news, instantly to have someone's perspective. I mean, I find myself listening to more and more podcasts.
I think everyone has a podcast now, but I'm glad that we're doing this. And another aspect to this is to give you a little more insight into us, kind of who we are, what we're like. Some of you know me, but many of you don't.
Yeah. What don't people know?
What don't people know about me? What's really interesting and kind of fun is that in college, I had a radio talk show, a sports talk show. It was a lot of fun. Had a great time with it. College radio. So it was those weird hours, but it worked and I enjoyed it. After that, I actually got into economic development. And then the town that I worked in, they had a radio station and I hosted an hour-long show about economic development in the town and promoted small businesses. It was a lot of fun.
So you already have the basis for this podcast thing going.
I'm going to try. I'm going to try to take all of that experience and channel it into this podcast. More importantly, how about you? What's something that now you've been with Harvest how long?
28 years.
28 years.
On 28.
28 years.
Long time.
Clients know you very well. What is maybe one thing they don't know about you?
So to dial the clock back, something that a lot of people don't know about me is back in the 90s, before Harvest, I was what's called a hydrogeologist. So I was in the environmental industry for a long time, working on projects for large companies, but also for EPA and Army Corps of Engineers and stuff like that.
What made you want to do that? Or what sort of started you down the road? You know what? I think this is what I want to do.
I came out of college with one of my degrees was in geology. And so I was looking for a way to apply that at that time and worked into hydrogeology is dealing with water issues in geology. And so I worked for a consulting firm and did a lot of interesting projects at that time.
I think it's interesting. We've talked about it before that, people that do this type of job as financial advisors, financial planners, et cetera, many times it's not their first career. It's something they came to as maybe a second or third career. And I think it's fascinating that alone, but I think it's great when you have other experiences that you could bring to the table. Like just in different industries and different careers, and then applying that to what we do today.
Yeah. Well, I think bringing for anyone who does something like what we do, bringing a unique perspective and life experience is incredibly important, whether it's professional or personal. Right? Like, because so much of what we do is helping people try to get where they want to be. And there's a lot of numbers around that, but it's not all just about the numbers.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And it's funny because when I did economic development, I did a lot of work with small businesses. So there is sort of this understanding and can relate to clients or those that own small businesses. So it's kind of the ability to kind of take my experience from another career and help in that way. So I think it's a lot of fun. I'm glad you learned maybe one or two things about us, but we'll share some more things as we go through the podcast. As I said, first podcast, we're going to talk about markets and we're going to talk about some other things throughout the shows, but we thought we'd start something fun with it is the holiday season. This is going to come out hopefully just before Christmas and the new year. One fun thing. Let's come up with something fun. A favorite holiday tradition or something you look forward to around the holidays.
Well, you should go first on this. I'll throw it back at you.
All right, I'll go first. It's not a tradition or something I look forward to, but it's something that like a core memories, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of things I look forward to and lots of traditions I enjoy, but there was just something about usually Christmas Eve. Was it Christmas Eve? Yeah, Christmas Eve. My mom would start getting antipasto put together. Italian family. We'd get all the different cold cuts and all the stuff to put it all together for Christmas Day, for Christmas meal. And it was, everyone had a job rolling different pieces of meat and putting it all together. And my mother would never do just one. There'd be like 2 or 3 huge platters of antipasta put out. And I just remember as a kid, it was like, you'd roll one and another piece of something you'd eat. And, so I don't know how much,
One for you, one for the
I don't know
platter.
how much
Yeah.
went to waste, but no, I shouldn't say that. How much did not go to waste.
Yeah.
But that was just a fun memory. I don't know why it's just
No,
all of a
that's
sudden
good.
the first thing that popped in my head, but that was fun. We don't do that anymore. I think
May start it.
I may have to start that again
Yeah,
somehow.
sounds good.
How about you?
Well, thanks for letting me think for a moment about that after I threw it back at you. So one good memory, it's not been a tradition, and you'll see why in a minute. But so another thing that people don't know about me necessarily is I grew up in Southern Louisiana. So I remember a couple years running so it's not Christmas Eve, but it's Christmas week, nighttime, getting dark early, and I'm getting in a canoe and we're paddling along the river to carol
Really?
across a few houses and stuff with like the local outing club.
That's
And so
really cool.
obviously not doing that. I'm not in the Schuylkill now, but that was a memory that I haven't thought of in a long time. That was really lovely.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, and
So
a short list of people that could say
yes,
that they've
yes,
done that, right? That's awesome. So a little bit about us, maybe a favorite memory we've had. And now we'll talk a little bit about kind of, some of the core things that we've been thinking about throughout the year as it relates to the economy and the markets. And I think you'd be living under a rock if you haven't heard about artificial intelligence, AI, its impact on just about everything going on. Sean, what have you been seeing?
Yeah, it's a huge theme. It's one that we and many other people think really has legs. So one of the reasons that the economy has done okay this year and markets have done okay in the end has really been the enormous amount of spending on the AI build out. So that includes obviously chips from certain companies and building out of data centers. But all of that, the amount of spending that's happening in our economy from that is enormous. It's akin to like the Apollo space program. And it's projected that capital expenditure spending by large companies will continue for at least the next several years, probably several times what's already been spent. And so that's sort of what's behind a lot of the spending that's been driving, we're hearing about it in all kinds of ways, good and bad. One of the more recent questions or concerns has been around AI companies in the public markets and are they overvalued and all that sort of stuff. And we did see a pullback in October, November, but a lot of the comparisons that people are making they're trying to figure out, is this more like Beanie Babies or is this more like the build out of the railroads? And most observers that seem to make sense to us really equate it much more to a long-term infrastructure build out, more like when the railroads were built out in the 1800s, where enormous capital costs to build this and the stocks associated with them go way high and come back down and then go way high again. With that new infrastructure being built out, every mile of new track that's laid, every new town that appears on the map sort of creates a bigger network and more value that accrues to the whole thing. Like railroad's wasn't that valuable when it's between two towns, but when you have it across the country and across cities everywhere, all of a sudden it becomes enormously valuable. And that's what we're seeing with AI. And so we're still in the early phases of this. The internet took probably 20 years to really come to fruition, and nobody at the start of that had any idea that it would lead to e-commerce and other things. And with AI, it's what I think we've talked about being what's called a general purpose technology.
Right.
It's foundational. It allows for a lot of other things to be built on it. And as AI pushes into all kinds of fields, we're just starting to see real revenue generation from the early bits of this. We're not even coming close to seeing the impact on things, pick your field, but like drug discovery, pick any field, and AI, the promise of AI is to sometimes come up with things that people wouldn't, but more often to be enormously helpful co-pilot and guide to help people get things done faster, to take science further than than it otherwise would have, and accelerate everything. And so that's a very exciting prospect. And what we've seen in these early innings is that AI is getting built out incredibly fast. We're still in the basic infrastructure stage. So areas that we have been focusing more on still are at that kind of ground level, the picks and shovels, for my railroad analogy.
Right.
It's like, the picks and shovels, the railroad ties,
Right.
who's making the track, that kind of thing.
But in today's terms,
Yeah,
that's how is power getting delivered to those
exactly.
servers? Who are the companies that are making those server facilities? How do they interconnect?
Right.
So again, you could keep using the railroad
Yeah.
analogy of track, but in today's world, it's the optics, fiber optics, all the other different components, cabling, obviously the chips. It is just the 2025 version of the railroad.
Yeah. And one of the more interesting things, which I think we talked about a little bit, is that it's because power, like getting energy to data centers, is a bottleneck. This is becoming a forcing function
How much?
for energy,
Where,
for
and
like
we
renewable energy and everything
and we
else.
we talk about power. How
Yeah.
much power? Why is it that this groundbreaking technology and the stuff that's going to help us do all these things takes so much power?
Because it does. I mean, the data centers are enormous. Although we have, in our pocket computers that are more powerful than the ones that sent,
Well, that's what I'm
things to the
thinking.
moon and
Well,
stuff.
I think about using my phone and finally can last all day. That technology keeps increasing. It
Yeah.
has
Well,
become better and better.
with AI over the last decade, really, and part of the reason that it's happening now is that they found that adding more compute, like training models on bigger and bigger data sets, leads to more powerful AI, for better lack of a better word, like smarter AI, because it's competing. They're running tests on it for, now every month, right? They're doing better and better. And it may not be the best way to measure it, but now well-trained AI model does better than humans on most professional, like tests and things like that. So in any case, one of the things that they found was that scaling these up meant that you have better and better and more accurate and useful models. So they haven't really hit the limit of that yet. And so that's why they're looking at ever, more powerful chips and larger data centers.
And efficiency has to come into play,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you could throw all the power you want at something, but if it's inefficient. So
Right.
continuing with your railroad analogy,
Yeah. Yeah.
similarly, from coal to steam to electric, just the means by which you could be more efficient.
Yeah. As I was saying, like there's a real race for all these companies because they're in competition building these models as well. But there's a real race with them to almost nothing is too much for them to spend at this point. And so if they're buying chips and putting together servers in large data centers, the talking about energy, one of the bottlenecks really is powering these. And a lot of places don't have the electric infrastructure to handle that. So doing a couple things. One is it's really increasing the need for us to upgrade our grid, which has all sorts of long-term positive implications, right? Just building in more capacity. And also it's providing opportunities for unique sources of power, not necessarily having to be generated by burning something at a power plant and then transmitting the electricity a long ways, but in some cases, co-locating often renewable sources and other things
And
right at
storage of
data
that
centers, and
energy.
storage. Yeah, importantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the cheapest, I'll get too far in the weeds on this, but the cheapest source of new power now really is solar and wind. It's cheaper than building a traditional power plant. And if you have battery storage, which is a whole nother technology that is related, but also being driven forward rapidly by this, you end up getting the likelihood of an abundance of energy in the world, that the adoption of which is really being driven a lot in this moment in the next few years by all the AI models and data centers.
Yeah. I think this was a foundational sort of start to that conversation about AI. Clearly, a big theme in 2025. Sean, a big theme in 2026,
Yes. Yeah. No,
if not longer.
certainly in 2026, as we get years into it, right, the stack and the companies that'll be important in it will move up from the track, to the new town. I'll push the analogy too far, but to further up the stack to new capacities and new companies, and not just the chip makers and infrastructure. So, David,
Yes.
this time of year, we're wrapping things up, but it's also like a
Oh,
wonderful
I see
season.
what you did there.
Yeah, yeah,
Wrapping.
wrapping things up.
Look at you.
So, do you have a memory of a favorite Christmas time gift or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. And I'm kind of like looking at it off camera. We're in my office, which is kind of fun to record a podcast in my office. I'll have to put a picture of what the office looks like from behind the scenes. But anyway, I'm looking at it. I am a huge fan of a particular team in New York, baseball team. They have orange and blue colors. And growing up, I would go to the games with my dad, and we went to quite a few. And their stadium, Shea Stadium, was being retired and taken down, a new one. And my mom and dad, they got me a seat back that I have in an enclosure, and I look at it often. So many great memories, amazing home runs and comebacks and all sorts of fun stuff, and more importantly, just memories with family doing that. So that would be my gift: the seat back from Shea Stadium.
That's a wonderful favorite gift.
It is. How
And
about
I
you?
guess we'll give you a pass on you didn't grow up right here, so
I
you
did
can't be a
not. I did not. And
Phillies.
no, but it's okay because my daughter has said, "Dad, I'm an Eagles fan." So we got somebody in the house rooting for
Okay.
some Philly teams. How about you? Favorite gift?
So, favorite gift of mine, the one that comes to mind would be the bike that I got when I think I was 5. Just great memories. I remember being so excited at that age and my dad putting it together. And I remember, a bright, sunny day, first ride on the bike with one of my older cousins running behind me, like making sure I didn't
That's
fall.
great.
That's lovely.
Very cool.
A yellow bike with a banana seat.
Nice.
Very 70s.
I was gonna say a decade, but that. Yeah. Well, I guess just to kind of put a bow on this, I think I'm excited for the podcast. I'm excited that we
Yeah.
get to do this together, and I'm more excited to wish you all a very, very happy holidays and a healthy new year. And I hope you get an opportunity to spend with family, friends, and enjoy the season.
Yeah. Happy holidays. Wonderful new year. Hope 2026 is a good year for all. And yeah,
There you go.
that's it. We got our first podcast.
We did it. Nice job, everybody.